Warfare, a fundamental aspect of human societies, has a history that extends back to the dawn of civilization. Archaeological evidence from ancient Mesopotamia, particularly in regions like Sumer and Akkad, indicates that organized conflict existed as early as 23,000 BC. The earliest records of warfare are found in ancient texts and inscriptions, such as those from the Sumerian city-states, where battles between rival cities were meticulously documented. Evidence from these early civilizations reveals that warfare was not only a means of territorial expansion, but also a tool for enforcing political power and economic dominance. Fortifications, weapons, and military strategies developed alongside these societies, with temples and palaces often housing standing armies. These early armies were composed of professional soldiers, conscripts, and mercenaries. The Code of Ur-Nammu, one of the oldest known law codes, even includes provisions related to warfare, such as rules of engagement and treatment of prisoners, underscoring the integration of military conduct into the legal framework. Warfare was also deeply intertwined with religious and cultural beliefs, often perceived as a divine mandate or a means to honor the gods, thereby embedding it into the very fabric of ancient civilizations. In ancient Greece, warfare was not only a fundamental aspect of society, but also regulated and supported by the state, playing a significant role in daily life. The practice was widespread and considered an essential part of citizenship, particularly in city-states like Athens and Sparta. The military was composed of both citizens and non-citizens, divided into several categories. The highest class was the hoplites, who were heavily armed, citizen soldiers serving as the backbone of the Greek armies. They were often engaged in long-term military campaigns and were expected to participate in rigorous training, strategic planning, and maintaining their equipment. The second category was the peltasts, who were primarily light infantry. They were usually hired for their agility and versatility in skirmishes and could offer specialized combat skills as well. The lowest class was the mercenaries, the majority of whom were non-citizens or slaves. They served in auxiliary roles, often providing additional manpower during large-scale battles or in support positions. Their lives were harsh, and their work dangerous, often leading to a short lifespan on the battlefield. The military camps in ancient Greece, known as agoras, were usually strategically located, often serving as hubs for recruitment and training. The camps were typically furnished with barracks and training grounds, and the areas were often fortified to protect against potential threats. The funding for military endeavors varied, but it was generally supported by the state, even for non-citizen soldiers. The state played a significant role in regulating warfare. The provisioning of armies was managed by state officials, and the state ensured that soldiers were adequately equipped and trained. Military leaders were often appointed based on their skills and contributions, ensuring effective command structures. Despite the state's involvement, the life of a soldier was not easy. They were often exposed to harsh conditions on the battlefield and faced high risks of injury or death. They had little to no legal protection in the midst of conflicts and were sometimes marginalized upon their return to civilian life. However, soldiers were also seen as essential to the security and expansion of their city-states, providing a service that was crucial for survival and prosperity. Despite the inherent dangers, some soldiers managed to gain significant honor and status. The hoplites, in particular, were often revered for their bravery and tactical prowess. They were known for their discipline, strength, and commitment to their city-state, and they were celebrated in various forms of art and literature. Some hoplites even achieved a degree of fame and recognition, with their names and exploits being recorded in historical accounts. One such example is Miltiades, a prominent Athenian general known for his decisive victory at the Battle of Marathon. However, the lives of most soldiers in ancient Greece were far from illustrious. In ancient Rome, warfare was predominantly orchestrated by a highly disciplined and structured military force, though various segments of society could engage in or contribute to military endeavors. The Roman term for soldier, miles, stems from the Latin word for soldier, encapsulating the essence of their role. Unlike in some other cultures, Roman soldiers were not only warriors but also embodiments of Roman virtues, such as discipline, loyalty, and endurance. Military service was deeply ingrained in Roman identity, often seen as a pathway to honor, citizenship, and social mobility. The Roman military was stratified into distinct units, each with specific roles and responsibilities. The core of the army was the legionaries, heavy infantrymen who formed the backbone of the Roman legions. These soldiers were well-trained, heavily armored, and equipped with standardized weaponry, making them formidable on the battlefield. Legionaries were typically Roman citizens, and their commitment to the legion was both a duty and a prestigious occupation. Supporting the legionaries were the auxiliaries, non-citizen troops recruited from Rome's vast territories. Auxiliaries provided specialized skills such as archery, cavalry, and engineering expertise, complementing the heavy infantry with their diverse capabilities. In return for their service, auxiliaries could earn Roman citizenship, incentivizing loyalty and effective performance. At the lower tiers were the velites, light infantrymen tasked with skirmishing, reconnaissance, and harassment of enemy forces before the main engagement. Their agility and speed were crucial for the dynamic tactics employed by Roman commanders. Additionally, the equestrians, or cavalry units, played a vital role in flanking maneuvers and rapid response during battles, often consisting of both citizens and provincials. Roman military infrastructure was meticulously planned, with castra, military camps, strategically established throughout the empire. The Middle Ages saw a significant shift in the nature and organization of warfare. In early medieval times, warfare was primarily conducted by feudal lords and their vassals, with little central regulation. The societal structure, based on feudalism, meant that many nobles owned their own armies, composed of knights and retainers who owed allegiance in exchange for land and protection. This decentralized approach to warfare was especially prevalent during periods of instability, such as times of succession crises or external threats like Viking invasions and Magyar raids. However, as the Middle Ages progressed, particularly from the 12th to the 15th centuries, the rise of centralized monarchies began to transform the conduct of warfare. Kings and queens sought to consolidate power, leading to the establishment of standing armies and more formal military hierarchy. The development of professional soldiers, distinct from the feudal levies, became more common as rulers recognized the need for reliable and disciplined forces to enforce their authority and expand their territories. Castles and fortified cities became pivotal to medieval warfare, serving as both defensive strongholds and bases for launching military campaigns. The construction and maintenance of these fortifications required significant resources and skilled labor, often funded by taxes levied on the populace. These structures not only provided protection against invasions, but also symbolized the power and prestige of their owners. The church played a complex role in medieval warfare. While it preached peace and condemned the devastation of war, it also sanctioned certain conflicts deemed just, such as the Crusades. The concept of chivalry, deeply intertwined with Christian values, emerged as an ethical framework for knights, emphasizing bravery, honor, and protection of the weak. Economic factors increasingly influenced the conduct of war during the Middle Ages. The growth of trade and the rise of wealthy merchant classes provided the financial backing necessary for prolonged military campaigns. Additionally, advancements in military technology, such as the introduction of the crossbow and improvements in siege engines, changed the dynamics of the battlefield. These innovations required investment in training and equipment, further intertwining economic prosperity with military capability. Despite advancements and increased regulation, medieval warfare remained brutal and destructive. Battles were often fought with little regard for personal safety, and the outcomes could drastically alter the political landscape. Peasants and serfs were frequently conscripted to support military efforts, facing harsh conditions and high mortality rates. The constant state of warfare also led to the spread of diseases and famines, deepening the hardships of the common people. The institution of knighthood also exemplified both the honor and the hardships of medieval warfare. Knights were expected to uphold the highest standards of martial skill and personal conduct, yet their lives were perilous, marked by frequent combat and the ever-present threat of injury or death. Tournaments and martial competitions served both as training grounds and as means of resolving conflicts without full-scale warfare, reflecting a society that valued martial prowess yet sought to regulate its most violent expressions. As the Middle Ages drew to a close, the nature of warfare continued to evolve with the decline of feudalism and the rise of nation-states. The introduction of gunpowder and artillery began to render traditional knightly combat obsolete, paving the way for more modern forms of military organization and strategy. These changes set the stage for the Renaissance and the early modern period, where warfare would become even more centralized, technologically driven, and intricately linked to the political ambitions of emerging European powers. In the 16th and 17th centuries, warfare was a complex and evolving phenomenon in Europe and its colonies. Conflicts were frequent and often driven by religious, political, and economic motivations. Many states found organized military engagement to be a more viable means of expanding their influence compared to diplomatic negotiations or economic competition. For instance, in France, King Francis I played a pivotal role in shaping military practices during this period. He centralized military power, creating well-organized and disciplined armies that served both as instruments of state control and tools for territorial expansion. These forces were meticulously funded and equipped reflecting the king's dedication to maintaining France's standing as a major European power. Similarly, in Italy, the Renaissance spurred advancements in military technology and fortifications. The development of star forts, known as Tres Italienne, revolutionized defensive architecture, making it harder for invading forces to breach city walls. Italian city-states became hubs of military innovation, attracting skilled engineers and strategists who contributed to the evolution of European warfare. The Protestant Reformation and the Catholic Counter-Reformation significantly impacted warfare during this era. Religious conflicts, exemplified by the 30 Years' War, 1618-1648, intertwined with political and territorial ambitions, leading to prolonged and devastating battles across the continent. In the Netherlands, the Dutch Republic emerged as a formidable military power through its skilled navy and innovative land forces. The 80 Years' War against Spanish rule showcased the Republic's military ingenuity and strategic planning, laying the groundwork for modern military tactics and logistics. In the colonial context, European powers such as England, France, and Spain engaged in extensive military campaigns to expand their overseas empires. Establishing colonies in the Americas necessitated formidable military forces to protect trade routes, subdue indigenous populations, and compete with rival nations. Fortifications, naval bases, and military outposts became essential for maintaining and expanding colonial holdings. Cannons and muskets replaced traditional melee weapons, requiring new training methods and battlefield strategies, thereby increasing the lethality and duration of wars. By the end of the 17th century, warfare had become an entrenched aspect of both European and colonial life. Continuous military readiness and the perpetual threat of conflict shaped societal structures, economies, and international relations. Soldiers faced rigorous training, harsh conditions, and the constant dangers of battle, while civilian populations endured the economic and social upheavals caused by ongoing wars. As we move into the 19th century, the landscape of warfare began to undergo significant transformations. Industrialization brought about profound shifts in society, leading to advancements in technology, transportation, and communication. These changes, coupled with the rise of nationalism and the expansion of empires, resulted in a more organized and technologically driven approach to warfare. In Europe, the Napoleonic Wars from 1803 to 1815 exemplified the impact of these changes. Napoleon Bonaparte revolutionized military strategy with the implementation of mass conscription, creating large, well-coordinated armies capable of rapid movement and decisive action. The use of artillery and the development of more efficient logistic systems allowed for sustained military campaigns across vast territory. In the United States, the 19th century saw the evolution of warfare alongside the nation's expansion westward. The Mexican-American War, from 1846 to 1848, highlighted the use of modern rifles and increased mobility, while the American Civil War, from 1861 to 1865, marked a pivotal shift with the introduction of ironclad ships, railroads for troop movement, and the widespread use of firearms like the rifled musket. This conflict also underscored the devastating impact of total war, where entire economies and populations were mobilized for the war effort. The 19th century also witnessed the professionalization of military forces. Many nations established standing armies and navies, moving away from reliance on feudal levies or temporary militias. Military academies and formal training programs were developed to ensure disciplined and well-prepared troops. Furthermore, the Industrial Revolution facilitated advancements in communication and transportation, such as the telegraph and the steam engine, which enhanced command and control during military operations. These innovations allowed for more coordinated and efficient execution of strategies, reducing the time between decision-making and implementation. Colonial conflicts became more prevalent as European powers competed for dominance in Africa and Asia. The scramble for Africa in the late 19th century saw numerous wars and skirmishes as nations sought to carve out colonies, often leading to prolonged and bloody engagements with indigenous populations. The 19th century also saw the emergence of new military doctrines and theories. Thinkers like Karl von Clausewitz and Antoine Henri Jomini developed influential works on strategy and the nature of war. By the end of the 19th century, warfare had become a more calculated and technologically advanced endeavor. The integration of industrial advancements, professional military structures, and strategic innovations set the stage for the unprecedented scale and intensity of conflicts that would characterize the 20th century. The early 20th century marked a period of heightened international tension and military preparedness. The alliances formed between major powers, such as the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance, created a framework for widespread conflict, ultimately leading to the outbreak of World War I from 1914 to 1918. This global conflict underscored the devastating impact of modern warfare, resulting in unprecedented casualties and widespread destruction. The war also accelerated technological innovations, including the use of airplanes for reconnaissance and combat, submarines for naval warfare, and propaganda as a tool for maintaining public support and morale. In the aftermath of World War I, efforts were made to regulate and control the conduct of warfare on an international scale. The League of Nations, established in 1920, aimed to promote peace and prevent future conflicts through collective security and disarmament agreements. Despite these efforts, the interwar period was marked by continued military buildups and the rise of militaristic regimes, setting the stage for the next big war. The Great Depression of the 1930s had a significant impact on military expenditures and strategies. Economic hardships led some nations to reduce their military budgets, while others, driven by expansionist ambitions, ramped up their military production to prepare for potential conflicts. In the United States, the rise of industrial capacity during this period enabled the country to become a major supplier of military goods, which proved crucial during World War II. World War II, from 1939 to 1945, was the second global conflict that further demonstrated the destructive potential of industrialized warfare, with the widespread use of strategic bombing, blitzkrieg tactics, and advanced naval operations. The aftermath of World War II saw a substantial shift in attitudes towards warfare, with many countries moving towards the establishment of international bodies aimed at preventing future conflicts. In 1949, the United Nations adopted the Geneva Conventions, which sought to regulate the conduct of war and provide protections for those affected by armed conflicts. The latter half of the 20th century also witnessed the emergence of nuclear weapons, fundamentally altering the strategic landscape and introducing the concept of mutually assured destruction as a deterrent against large-scale wars. By the end of the 20th century, warfare had become a deeply entrenched aspect of both national and international relations. The constant state of military readiness and the perpetual threat of conflict shaped societal structures, economies, and political alliances. Technological advancements continued to drive changes in military strategies and capabilities, ensuring that warfare remained a dynamic and evolving phenomenon. Despite the numerous efforts to regulate and control warfare, conflicts continue to arise. In the 21st century, the nature of warfare has become increasingly complex, focusing on issues of cybersecurity, autonomous weapons, and the impact of globalization. The rise of the internet and advanced technologies has transformed the military landscape, allowing for greater precision and remote operations. In 2002, the United Nations adopted the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, aimed at regulating the use of specific types of weapons and addressing the ethical implications of autonomous systems. This international agreement emphasizes the importance of maintaining human oversight in lethal decision-making processes and differentiates between permissible and prohibited weapons technologies. And to conclude it all, here's a story of one of the most legendary military leaders in my opinion, Alexander the Great. Born in 356 BCE in Pella, the ancient capital of Macedonia, Alexander exhibited exceptional leadership and strategic brilliance from a young age. Tutored by the philosopher Aristotle, he cultivated a deep appreciation for knowledge and military tactics, which would later define his conquests. In 334 BCE, at the age of 20, Alexander ascended to the throne after the assassination of his father, King Philip II. Determined to expand his empire, he embarked on an unprecedented military campaign against the Persian Empire. His tactical genius was evident in battles such as the Battle of Issus in 333 BC and the Siege of Tyre in 332 BC, where his ability to adapt strategies and inspire his troops led to decisive victories against formidable foes. Alexander's conquests extended from Greece through Asia Minor, Egypt, and into the heart of Persia, reaching as far as the Indus River. His empire, though short-lived, unified diverse cultures and facilitated the spread of Greek civilization across 3 continents. Alexander's approach to warfare emphasized mobility, psychological warfare, and the integration of conquered peoples into his administration, fostering a lasting legacy of cultural fusion and military innovation. Despite his untimely death in 323 BCE at the age of 32, Alexander the Great's influence on military strategy and leadership continues to be studied and revered. His ability to combine vision with tactical prowess set new standards for what a military commander could achieve, inspiring countless leaders throughout history. Long live the king!